Washington is weighing its options after Iraq's government appealed directly to it for air power to help battle militants in the country. Much of northern Iraq has now fallen to fighters from the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, or ISIS. This is a group determined to take the capital, Baghdad. The US Vice President Joe Biden has now spoken to Iraq's Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki, urging unity talks across the country. That's a video message claiming to be from a Sunni Moroccan cleric. It's calling for attacks against US embassies right around the world if Washington does decide to conduct airstrikes. And a spokesman for Iraq's security forces also says that an investigation has now been ordered into 59 high-ranking security officials accused of leaving their posts. As the crisis started breaking out, they could be executed if they're found guilty. Well, as well as dividing Iraq along sectarian lines, the violence is also leading to fears about the country's religious minorities. These include Christians and Yazidis. They make up around about 5% of the total population. CNN's Zoa Damon went to a small town in the north near Mosul to see how Christians there are preparing themselves for the worst.
On a dusty street corner in the Christian enclave of Bartilla, Yusuf and his friends try to pretend that things are normal, that ISIS fighters aren't potentially just moments away from slaughtering them. We all have our bags ready. If anything happens, we will leave, he says. Mosul, the first city to fall to the terrorist group, is right next door.
In 2005, there were a series of attacks against churches in Baghdad, and after that, the young men, the youth here, decided to band together and form their own civilian defense units. That's been going on pretty much ever since, but now their efforts have really intensified. They don't want us filming their checkpoints or other measures that they've put into place, especially not with ISIS, just a 10-minute drive away.
Most shops are closed. Their owners either fled or don't bother opening. Business is down, power is out, and not everyone can afford generators. It's a grim existence in a nation that has already suffered so much. Shakir's brother and sister were killed in an explosion in Baghdad in 2008. Her heart, she says, sears with the pain of the past and fear of the future. Here is my son. Every day he pulls a 12-hour guard duty, she tells us. It's hard. It's very hard. If it stays like this, there won't be an Iraqi left in the country. For most, there is little to do but wait. Outside the church, we meet these women. It's fine. What are they going to do? Kill us? They try to joke. I might be the only girl left here. Everyone will go, but I will stay. 22-year-old Mariana says, I won't leave my country. Her mother, Mahassin, remembers the days when they felt they had a future. But the moment there is a glimmer of hope in Iraq, it's stolen. I remember coming here when I was this big. Father Binham Lalu proudly points out the new renovations at his church, the granite archways and floor he always wanted to build. What are we supposed to do, he wonders. This is our land, our church that our ancestors built. This evil can't continue. A day will come when people will come to their senses. A hope, a dream, in a country hijacked by violence few can understand. Arwa Damon, CNN, Bartilla.
Iraq's largest oil refinery in Beji. Police officials say that militants there have managed to take over 60% of this facility, which is hugely important to Iraq's own domestic consumption. And even though the ISIS advance hasn't yet had a major impact on international oil exports from Iraq, oil prices right around the world have been rising steadily. Currently, Brent crude is costing over $114 a barrel. That's up, as you can see, just over 0.1%. This commodity has been driven up in price by fears that exports could be hit later on this year when world demand peaks, especially if ISIS manages to make it down to the south of the country where the largest oil fields are. Leonie Lakhani is standing by with more on this side of the story from CNN Abu Dhabi. Leonie, as we said before, prices rising steadily, but they're nowhere near the kind of peak levels of $147, $127 a barrel that we have seen in the past. Why is that?
Nina, as you mentioned, it's because Iraq's oil production has not been impacted yet, according to Iraqi officials. Now, Iraq is OPEC's second largest producer, but the majority, 2/3 of Iraq's production, is in the south of the country, and the ISIS fighters have not gone that far down yet
for the time being. So as long as that production is not impacted, global prices will not go up as much. But it is important on a domestic level, Nina. As you mentioned, Beiji is the main oil refinery in the north. It supplies about 40% of Iraq's needs, gas needs. And so when you've got the taps turning off internally, you've got internal strife that could build up. We've already seen lines of people in Kirkuk lining up for hours and hours, waiting for gas, waiting for just 30 liters of gas. And you can't have that kind of a situation when you've got a country that's already tense. It creates a lot of internal strife, Nina.
Yeah, as you were saying before, this obviously presents the possibility of there being fuel shortages. Fuel shortages would also mean that it's more expensive for Iraq to import goods and also manufacture goods itself. This is going to put huge price pressures on the Iraqi people at a time when just keeping the country together is fraught with difficulties, Leonie.
Absolutely, and the basic needs, the most basic needs, we're seeing the prices of them going up dramatically. Our team in Baghdad did some hunting around for us, and things like potatoes, for instance, a basic food, it's up about double, from about 80 cents a kilo to about $1.50 a kilo. We've seen cooking gas up fivefold. So when you've got the most basic needs and people are struggling just to get those, it builds a lot of resentment, it builds a lot of internal strife, which is incredibly dangerous in a situation that's already so tense, Nina.
All right, Leonie Lakhani, thanks so much for that. Leonie Lakhani, they're live at CNN Abu Dhabi this hour.